Some mysteries refuse to be forgotten. Some legends never fade. And some conspiracies demand to be uncovered. This is Codename Unknown. Mysteries, conspiracies, and legends. Where expert investigator and host Jackson Wolf dives deep into history's most perplexing enigmas, chilling folklore, and secretive cover-ups. Each week, he pushes the boundaries of what we know, uncovering hidden truths and questioning the stories we've been told. The search for answers begins now. Open your mind, question everything, and step into the shadows.
Welcome to Codename Unknown, Mysteries, Conspiracies, and Legends. I'm Jackson Wolf, and today's expedition is The Silence Code, the number station that never stopped broadcasting. If you've ever tuned across shortwave at night and heard disembodied voices reciting digits, you've brushed against one of intelligence history's strangest open secrets. Tonight we ask why these stations persist in a hyper-connected world, and what a constant, almost mechanical signal, like the infamous UVB-76, the buzzer, communicates without saying anything. We'll trace their origins, explain how shortwave reaches the globe, examine court-proven spy cases, and separate myth from evidence. Along the way, I'll show you how open-source sleuths investigate responsibly, and I'll invite your recordings and logs for a follow-up. Ready? Spin the dial. The mystery is already transmitting now. Number stations are shortwave broadcasts that sound like puzzles spoken aloud. A typical transmission begins with an interval signal, perhaps a music loop, a buzzer, or a chirp, followed by a call-up, then groups of numbers read by a synthesized or human voice. 19374. Repeat, 19374. Others use Morse, digital bursts, or odd tones. Many follow schedules at fixed frequencies. Others appear irregularly. They're often in AM, audible with simple radios, and propagate far beyond borders. To the uninitiated, they feel eerie because the content is opaque yet ritualistic. Headers, blocks, pauses, end markers. To trained ears, they're operational formats. The point isn't entertainment, it's reliable, deniable delivery of instructions to someone somewhere who's listening quietly across the planet. Why shortwave? Because the ionosphere is a giant mirror when conditions cooperate. Shortwave frequencies refract off charged layers and hop across oceans, letting a modest transmitter reach continents. The receiver can be trivial, a pocket radio, a wire, a battery. No SIM cards, no contracts, no servers to subpoena, no metadata trail binding sender to recipient. Propagation varies with day, season, and solar activity, which paradoxically helps plausible deniability. Fading and noise look normal. A handler broadcasts once, many potential recipients can monitor. Even direction finding is messy at long distances. If an operator changes site or antenna, the footprint shifts and triangulation gets harder. In an era obsessed with networks, shortwave remains a store and forward system for the air. Robust, redundant, and beautifully infrastructure agnostic still. Number stations likely debuted in wartime experimentation, but they blossomed during the Second World War and truly multiplied through the Cold War. Both superpowers and smaller states use shortwave to command illegals and assets abroad. Western enthusiasts catalog them by nicknames: Lincolnshire Poacher, Cherry Ripe, Attention, while intelligence services treated them as mundane tools. After 1991, many assumed the internet would retire them. Instead, some vanished, others moved, and several adapted with digital modes. Why persist? Because political transitions are messy, agents remain in place, and new missions appear. Shortwave requires no foreign infrastructure, works during crisis, and scales cheaply. Declassifications reference voice numbers and OTPs confirming operations existed. The signals never belong to nostalgia. They belong to continuity and to the bureaucratic momentum of statecraft. Period. Enter UVB-76, nicknamed the Buzzer, a droning, roughly 462 millisecond buzz repeating about 25 times per minute on 4625 kHz, audible for decades. Most of the time, it's a relentless tone, but occasionally the buzz stops and a Russian voice delivers a brief message, often with call signs and alphanumerics. Over years, listeners logged frequency shifts, power changes, and stray audio, door creaks, conversations, even music, implying an open microphone at times. Direction finding placed it near Poverovo, then later near St. Petersburg. Multiple sites suggest redundancy. What's the purpose? Theories range from military HF link to channel marker for readiness nets. Its message is presence, the constancy itself. When it breaks pattern, ears prick up worldwide because deviation signals intent and invites open-source scrutiny of context, timing, placement. We don't have to rely on romance to link number stations to espionage. In the United States, the Cuban Atención case produced court evidence. FBI recordings captured a female voice repeating Atención before number groups. Agents seized a laptop with decryption software and one-time pad outputs. Convictions followed. Cuba's HMSU-1 still blends voice numbers with RDFT digital files, hybridization on air. Elsewhere, declassified British and German documents reference OTP-based broadcasts. These aren't rumors, they're records. The takeaway is pragmatic. Number stations are not monolithic, but some are plainly operational. They rise, fall, and mutate with organizational needs. So when a familiar format appears on schedule, we can't name the operator with certainty, but we can say the technique works and has survived legal scrutiny more than once. The magic glue is the one-time pad. Imagine a sheet of random digits shared secretly between sender and receiver. The sender combines the pad with the message using simple arithmetic. The receiver reverses the process. If the pad is truly random, used only once, and kept secret, the ciphertext is information theoretically unbreakable. Voice numbers fit because they're bandwidth frugal and human decodable, red groups that correspond to pad operations, and a tiny receiver becomes a secure terminal. Even if someone records every broadcast without the correct pad, it's noise. Failures happen when pads are reused, generated poorly, or mishandled. History is littered with those mistakes. But when tradecraft is disciplined, shortwave plus OTP equals a stubborn, elegant, low-cost command system resistant to outages, seizures, and attribution in peacetime. So who runs them? Intelligence services, military signal units, strategic communications branches, and in some cases, civil defense organizations. The operators vary by country and mission, tasking agents, synchronizing deployments, testing circuits, or maintaining readiness channels. Official silence persists for practical reasons. Admissions create diplomatic friction and expose tradecraft. Denials are safe because the broadcasts are legal from the origins perspective. Ambiguity also discourages adversaries from inferring too much. Within bureaucracies, these systems endure because they're cheap, resilient, and familiar. The people who budget for continuity keep what works. And because shortwave is global, operators conserve assets without relying on foreign telecoms. The result is a paradox. The most public broadcasts deliver the most private instructions efficiently, repeatedly, and with plausible deniability left intact. Why do they still matter today? Because resilience beats convenience during crisis. Internet paths can be censored, surveilled, or cratered. Satellites can be jammed. Phones betray location. Shortwave ignores damaged infrastructure and doesn't need two-way connectivity. Attribution remains slippery. A transmitter can be military, diplomatic, or private, and antenna patterns blur origin stories. The silence code is the layer many miss. A constant marker can function as posture, an audible heartbeat that says, "We're up, synced, and watching." Power changes, schedule shifts, and short voice inserts become cues. Communication happens by presence, not only payload. That's potent in deterrence and mobilization, where readiness itself signals capability. The buzzer's buzz, maddening as it seems, may be a metronome for forces and a barometer for anxious listeners worldwide. Open-source listeners notice patterns around geopolitical flashpoints, more activity during exercises, holidays, or crises, unusual formats preceding major events. Sometimes correlation is meaningful. A surge reflects readiness drills. Sometimes it's apophenia, our pattern-hungry brains stitching coincidence into narrative. Propagation changes can mimic activity, and new SDR receivers can reveal signals that were always there. Rigorous logs help. UTC time, frequency, mode, signal strength, receiver location, and ionospheric conditions. Cross-check with independent observers and archive recordings. Ask whether timing aligns with routine shifts, not just headlines. Remember that military calendars are dense. If everything correlates, nothing does. Treat the airwaves like a weather map. Compare days, watch fronts move, and avoid declaring storms every time the wind gusts. Measure twice, theorize once, and document without embellishment, always. How do civilians study this responsibly? Public software-defined radios let you tune remote receivers worldwide. Combine multiple SDRs with time difference of arrival to estimate a transmitter's region, not its exact fence line. Watch waterfall displays for burst modes and measure schedules, but know the limits. Reflections, multiple sites, and shared frequencies confound certainty. Evaluate claims by triangulating evidence, recordings, independent logs, and propagation checks with tools like VOACAP or Ionosonde data. Prefer primary sources, declassified files, court records, and operator manuals when available. Then consult curated archives, priom.org for logs and primers, the Kine Project for historic audio, Enigma 2000, and Numbers and Oddities for analysis. Beware media myths that invent romance where documentation exists. Sober beats spooky every time, and careful skepticism protects the research community itself. Before we sign off, ethics and law. Passive listening is generally legal. Transmitting, jamming, decoding traffic not addressed to you, or trespassing to chase sites is illegal and dangerous. Don't interfere. Also, not every odd signal is a number station. Beacons, ionospheric sounders, over-the-horizon radar, training nets, and jammers frequently fool newcomers. Verify, document, and resist glamorized trespass narratives. Today we mapped what number stations are, how shortwave carries them, why they persisted, the buzzer's strange constancy, confirmed espionage links, and the one-time pad that keeps them stubbornly secure. We explored patterns, tools, limits, and deniability, the silence code of presence. I want your help. Send recordings, UTC times, frequencies, locations, receiver notes, and questions for a follow-up. This mystery rewards disciplined curiosity. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Codename Unknown: Mysteries, Conspiracies, and Legends. The search for answers never stops, and the truth is always waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed the journey, subscribe to us, and don't miss what's next. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.